The colony world of Epsilon 9 was supposed to be quiet. For the human student, it was a chance to study far away from Earth, to see new skies, and to start fresh. The transport shuttle dropped him at the station, and from there he carried his single bag to the small apartment that had been assigned to him. Everything looked normal at first. Clean walls, simple furniture, and a view of the alien city glowing outside the window. It almost felt too calm. When he opened the door, he saw his new roommate for the first time. At first glance, she looked human, tall, slim, with long dark hair that flowed down her shoulders, but her eyes were not human at all. They glowed faintly, like small suns, and when she blinked, a shimmer of blue light crossed them. Her skin also looked strange in the dim light, smooth but with faint patterns, like glowing veins under the surface. She introduced herself with a voice that was soft but heavy, carrying a rhythm that felt almost musical. The human smiled nervously, trying to act normal, but deep inside, he felt a chill. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. Outside, the alien city moved with its glowing vehicles and strange sounds. Inside, the apartment seemed to hold its breath. The human lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Through the thin wall, he thought he heard faint humming, almost like a chant. It rose and fell, steady and endless. He covered his ears with the pillow, telling himself it was nothing. But sleep did not come easily. Days passed, and the strange feeling did not go away. His roommate was polite. She kept her distance, and she never acted rude. But there was something about her that felt dangerous. Sometimes when she walked past him, the air felt warmer, like she carried fire inside her. Sometimes he caught her staring at him with those glowing eyes, and he could not hold her gaze. She smiled, but her smile never reached her eyes. One evening, as the human cooked a simple meal, he noticed her standing at the window. She was not looking at the view, but at the night sky. Her hands pressed against the glass, her breathing deep and uneven. For a moment, her skin glowed faintly, the patterns under her surface pulsing like waves. The human froze, the spoon in his hand trembling. When she turned to face him, her eyes blazed brighter than ever. And then, just as quickly, the glow faded. She gave him a soft smile, as if nothing had happened, but his heart would not calm down. The apartment no longer felt safe. It felt like a cage, one that he had willingly stepped into without knowing. The danger. Every sound, every movement carried weight. The humming from her room grew louder each night, sometimes shaking the thin walls. The human wondered if he should ask to move, to find another place, but something inside him kept him there, curiosity mixed with fear. He wanted to understand who or what his roommate really was. That night, as he closed his eyes, he promised himself to be careful, but deep down he already knew. This was not just a simple roommate arrangement. This was the beginning of something far darker. And whatever secret she carried inside her body, he was now too close to escape. The human tried to tell himself that everything was fine. His new life on Epsilon 9 should have been exciting, full of new faces and strange wonders. But his mind always returned to his roommate. There was something about her that pulled his attention even when he wanted to look away. At first, the signs were small. She stopped eating at the same table. When he cooked, she only watched, her glowing eyes fixed on the steam rising from the pot. Sometimes she whispered in her own language, words that sounded like a mix of thunder and water. The human could not understand, but the sound made the air feel heavy. One morning, he woke up to a strange smell, sweet, sharp, like burning flowers. He stepped into the hallway and saw faint smoke drifting from her room. Panicked, he knocked on her door. There was no answer, only silence. He almost called the station guards, but just as he reached for his comm, the door opened. She stood there calm, her long hair sticking to her face as if she had been sweating. Her skin glowed faintly, the patterns beneath her flesh moving like liquid light. She only said one thing, "Do not enter." Then she closed the door again. The human froze, his heart pounding. Something was happening inside that room, something not meant for human eyes. And yet, curiosity pushed against his fear. Later that day, he saw her pacing the living room, her steps fast, restless, like a predator trapped in a cage. Her breathing was uneven. Her claws, small and sharp, clicked softly against the metal floor. She caught him staring and quickly looked away. But not before he saw it. Her eyes were brighter, burning like two small suns. She muttered something about the cycle and hurried back into her room, the door locked with a sound that did not belong to human technology. At night, the apartment grew alive with sound. The humming that had once been faint was now louder. It vibrated through the walls and into his bones. Sometimes it sounded like a growl, other times like a song. He lay awake, clutching his blanket, each second feeling longer than the last. When the lights flickered, he thought it was the building. But then he saw the glow seeping from under her door, pulsing like a heartbeat. The human began to avoid her during the day, but even then, he noticed changes. Her hands trembled when she held a glass. Her skin burned faintly, as if heat was trapped inside her. And every time she looked at him, his chest tightened. It was not anger in her eyes, nor kindness. It was something deeper, something he could not name. One evening, as he studied at the table, he heard a thud from her room, then another, heavier, shaking the cups on the shelf. He rushed to the door, but before he could knock, her voice came through, low and strained. "Stay away," she whispered. The words were clear, but the tone carried both warning and pain. The human stepped back, his hand trembling. For the first time, he wondered if he was living with a being that was not only alien, but dangerous. And yet, despite his fear, a strange thought haunted him. She was fighting something powerful inside her, and if she lost that fight, he would be the only one near her when it happened. That night, as the city outside glowed under twin moons, the human realized something. The first signs were not small anymore. They were warnings, and whatever was coming next, he was powerless to stop it. The apartment felt wrong that evening. The air was heavy, the walls seemed to hum with a strange energy. The human sat at the table, pretending to study, but his eyes kept drifting toward her closed door. The glow beneath it pulsed brighter than tie. Ever, like fire trapped inside a box, he told himself to leave, to go outside, to breathe the fresh night air of Epsilon 9. But something inside told him to stay. A pull he could not explain. He sat frozen, listening, waiting. Then it happened. A sharp cry cut through the silence. Not human, not natural. It was a mix of pain and hunger, low and burning. The sound crawled into his bones. Before he could move, the door burst open. She stumbled out, her long hair clinging to her damp skin. Her eyes blazed bright gold, her body trembling with heat. Every breath she took shimmered in the air, like smoke from a fire. Her skin glowed in places, patterns shifting and crawling as if alive. For the first time, the human saw claws pushing out from her fingers, sharp and black. She looked at him, and the room grew hotter. He froze, his chair scraping back slowly. "What's happening?" he whispered. Her answer came in a voice layered with echoes. "The cycle. It has begun." Then she collapsed, the metal floor sizzling under her burning skin. The human rushed to her side, though fear screamed at him to run. When he touched her arm, it was like pressing against fire. He pulled back instantly, his palm red. She gasped and tried to push him away, but her strength was weak. "Stay back," she whispered. But her voice carried no force, only desperation. Her body shook violently, the glow spreading across her skin until the entire room lit with shifting colors. The patterns on her arms pulsed like veins filled with liquid fire. The humming he had heard for days now roared around them, vibrating the air. It was not just sound anymore. It was power, raw and uncontrolled. The human backed into the wall, his chest pounding. This was no illness, no normal cycle. This was something deeper, something primal. Her claws scratched against the floor as she dragged herself forward, every movement slow but dangerous. Her golden eyes locked on him, filled with a hunger he could not understand. The lights flickered, then burst, leaving the room in half-darkness. Lit only by her glow, the shadows twisted across the walls, dancing like fire spirits. She groaned, her voice breaking. "I cannot." "Stop it!" The human's throat went dry. For the first time, he understood the truth. She was not in control anymore. Whatever her species carried inside them, it was stronger than her will. She pressed her claws into the floor, leaving deep scars in the metal. The apartment shook as if an earthquake had started. The air smelled sharp and heavy, sweet like burning flowers, but mixed with smoke. He stumbled toward the door, but his legs refused to move fast. Fear chained him in place. Every instinct told him to run, but his body stayed locked in the fire of her gaze. She crawled closer, her breath scorching the air, her face twisted between pain and something else, something far more dangerous. Then, with a sudden cry, she slammed her hand into the wall. The metal bent under her claws, sparks flying. Her head dropped forward, her hair covering her face. Her body trembled violently as if she was fighting herself. For a moment, silence returned, broken only by her harsh breathing. The human dared to step closer, though every step felt like walking toward death. "Do you need help?" he whispered. She raised her head, and her eyes glowed brighter than ever. Not gold anymore, but a deep, burning red. Her lips parted, showing sharp teeth. Her voice came like a growl, layered and heavy. "Help will not save you." The human froze, his heart hammering so loud he thought it would burst. In that moment, he realized the truth. This was not just the start of her cycle. This was the beginning of something that could consume them both. And as the room pulsed with her glow, he knew one thing with certainty. The night had only just begun. The apartment no longer felt like a home. It felt like a trap. The human stood frozen as his alien roommate dragged herself back into her room. Her glowing body flickered like a torch about to burn out. The heavy door slammed shut, and then came the sound of locks, strange locks, not human-made. A metallic click mixed with a low hum, as if alive. He backed away slowly, his chest tight, his breath shaking. Silence returned for only a moment. Then the walls began to shake. At first it was soft, like someone pacing inside, but soon it grew louder, pounding, scratching. Something powerful was moving on the other side of that thin barrier. The lights flickered again. He looked up, seeing sparks fall from the ceiling. The air smelled heavy with heat and flowers burning. The humming sound, once faint, now filled the entire apartment. It vibrated through the furniture, through the glass, even through his bones. He pressed his hands against his ears, but the sound lived inside his skull. He tried to distract himself, to think, but fear kept breaking through. If she lost control, no wall could keep her inside, no lock would save him. He walked to the front door, hand shaking as he reached for the handle. But then he stopped. Through the thin metal, he heard her voice, broken, layered, half human and half something else. "Do not leave me." The words froze him in place. He turned back slowly, staring at her door. The glow from beneath it was stronger now, pulsing like a heartbeat. Shadows shifted across the floor, moving like liquid creatures. Every instinct screamed to run, yet something heavier pulled him down. He sat back on the couch, staring at the door, trapped between fear and guilt. Hours passed like minutes. The sounds from her room grew stranger. Sometimes it was growls, low and animal. Other times it was screams, high and sharp. And in between came whispers, Words in her alien tongue, repeated over and over. They sounded like a ritual. Each word made the air in the apartment vibrate harder. The glass on the table cracked from the pressure. Then came the claws. Sharp black talons scraped against the inside of her door, leaving long marks. The sound was worse than nails on stone. Every scrape sank into his skin like knives. The human stood, backing into the corner, staring wide-eyed as the metal door bent outward slightly. He thought it would break at any moment, but it held, groaning under her weight. The heat spread. The air inside the apartment grew suffocating. Sweat ran down his forehead. His lungs felt heavy. He staggered toward the window, opening it to let the night air in. But the city below did not care. Glowing vehicles moved silently. Alien crowds walked the streets. None of them knew what was happening in this small apartment above. None of them could hear her screams, muffled by metal and fire. The human closed the window quickly when he noticed something. The glow from under her door had stretched across the floor. Thin cracks of red light spread like veins, crawling toward him. He stumbled back, heart hammering. The glow pulsed once, twice, and then retreated, almost like it was alive, testing the space outside. He pressed his back against the wall. His mind spun with questions he could not answer. What was happening inside that room? What cycle was she trapped in? And why did she beg him not to leave when every sign screamed that he should? The scratching grew softer, replaced by a low growl that rattled the air. Her voice came again, broken and raw. Stay away, or it will not stop. The words chilled him more than the heat ever could, because deep down he understood. She was not only fighting herself, she was fighting something inside her. And if that thing won, the locked door would not protect him. The human curled up on the couch, eyes wide open. He could not sleep, he could not move. Every second stretched longer. Every sound reminded him that he was sharing his home with something far from safe. And as the night dragged on, he realized the truth. He was not just locked inside with her, he was locked inside with the monster she was becoming. The apartment did not sleep that night. The human sat on the couch, eyes fixed on the glowing door. Every second dragged like an hour. The air was too hot, the silence too loud. And then, just before dawn, the breaking point came. A scream ripped through the walls, so sharp it rattled the glass. It was not human, not even close. It was the sound of metal tearing mixed with a beast's cry. The human clutched his ears, his heart pounding. The door shook violently, the glow blazing brighter until the edges melted like wax. Then, silence. He held his breath, waiting. The next sound came like thunder. The door burst open, ripped from its hinges. Sparks showered across the floor as metal crashed down. And there she was, standing in the doorway. Her body was no longer calm. Her skin burned with shifting patterns. Glowing rivers that moved under her flesh. Her eyes had changed again, no longer golden or red, but pure white, shining like stars. Heat waves rolled from her body, making the air shimmer. Her claws had grown long, black, and sharp, scratching sparks as they scraped the wall. She looked less like a woman now, and more like something born from fire. The human froze, his throat dry. Her breathing was heavy. Broken, each inhale sounded like a storm, each exhale like fire on stone. She took a slow step into the living room, and the floor hissed under her burning feet. The temperature rose instantly, forcing sweat down his face. He backed into the corner, unable to tear his eyes away. "Stay back," he whispered, his voice shaking, but her eyes locked on him. There was no recognition in them, only hunger. She moved closer, each step heavy, the lights above flickering with her presence. The apartment groaned as if the building itself feared her. Her claws dragged against the wall, leaving deep scars in the metal. Sparks flew, the smell of burning iron filled the air. She tilted her head, watching him with an expression caught between pain and desire. Then, without warning, she lunged. The human dropped to the floor, rolling as her claws tore through the couch. Foam and fabric exploded into the air. The furniture ripped apart like paper. He scrambled backward, his hands shaking as he crawled. She turned slowly, her glowing skin lighting the room like fire. Her lips parted, showing sharp teeth that had not been there before. "Run," she whispered, her voice layered, broken. It was not a command. It was a warning. But his body was frozen, trapped between terror and disbelief. She stepped forward again, but then stopped suddenly, her claws pressed into the wall, trembling. Her whole body shook violently, as if two forces were fighting inside her. A growl escaped her throat, deep and raw. The glow across her skin flickered, dimming for only a moment. Then it flared back, brighter than ever. The human staggered to his feet, pressing against the far wall. He grabbed a chair, holding it like a shield, though he knew it was useless. His chest rose and fell quickly, every breath sharp. Her gaze burned into him. Her voice came again, low and full of pain. "I cannot stop." The words cut through him. She was still in there, still aware, but whatever power raged inside her was stronger than her control. Suddenly, the lights shattered one by one, raining sparks. The room was now lit only by her glow. The shadows stretched across the walls, twisting like living things. She moved again, faster this time, crossing the room in a heartbeat. Her claws slashed down, barely missing his arm as he stumbled back. The chair snapped in half like wood. Under an axe, the human gasped, his back hitting the window. Outside, the alien city glowed under the twin suns rising. But no one looked up, no one saw. To them, this apartment was silent, normal. Only he knew the truth of the storm inside. She raised her claws again, trembling. Her whole body shook, glowing brighter and brighter until it hurt his eyes. Then, at the last moment, she slammed her claws into the floor instead of him. The ground cracked, heat bursting upward. She screamed, falling. To her knees, her body bent forward, her glowing hair covering her face. Her voice came, broken, almost a plea. "Do not. Let me out." The human stared, stunned. The monster had almost taken over, but for now, she had stopped herself at the edge. The breaking point had come, and he knew, next time, she would not be able to hold back. The room still shook with her scream. The floor was cracked, the walls scarred, and the air was hot enough to burn. The human stood pressed against the shattered window, his chest rising and falling in panic. His alien roommate knelt in the center of the room, her claws buried in the floor, her body glowing like a dying star. Her head hung low, her hair glowing faintly, hiding her face. She trembled as if two storms fought inside her. Every breath she took came out as fire, warping the air around her. The human's mind screamed at him to run. If he jumped now, the city below would see him fall, but at least he might survive. And yet, his legs did not move. Something heavier chained him in place. Her voice came through the heat, broken and layered. "Leave, or I will destroy you." The words were not just warning, they were truth. Her claws sank deeper into the metal floor as she shivered violently. The patterns under her skin pulsed faster, glowing like rivers of magma. The cycle had her, and she was losing. The human swallowed hard. Every instinct told him to stay silent, but silence would mean the monster won. So he spoke, his voice shaking but clear enough to cut through the noise. "You are not a monster." Her head jerked up, her eyes blazing white fire. For a moment, it felt like being stared at by the sun itself. He wanted to collapse, to hide. But he kept talking, forcing the words out. "You are my roommate, my friend, not a beast. You fight it. I see you fighting every moment. That means you are more than it, stronger than it." Her claws scraped against the floor, sending sparks, her lips curled back, sharp teeth flashing. "Stronger?" she growled, her voice shaking with rage and pain. "I am death, I am fire, I cannot stop." Her words broke into a scream, shaking the walls. The ceiling light exploded above them, raining glass. The human flinched but did not stop. "You can stop," he said louder, his throat dry. "Because you already did. You could have killed me, but you didn't. You stopped yourself. Even when it burned you, that means you still control it." Her body convulsed, her claws rising as if to strike, but they hovered in the air, trembling. Her breathing grew uneven, sharp gasps like a drowning swimmer. Her glowing eyes flickered, shifting from white to gold, then to red, then back again, as if her mind fought to surface. The human stepped closer, heat burning his skin, sweat poured down his face, his arms shaking. He knew one step too close could end him, but he moved anyway, because fear could no longer be the choice. He raised his voice again, desperate. "You told me not to leave, so I stayed. Not because I'm trapped, but because I choose to stay. You are not alone in this. You are not just fire. You are more, and I see it." Her scream tore out again, but this time it was different. Less rage, more pain. She clutched her head with both claws, her whole body shaking. The glow across her skin began to flicker wildly. The room dimmed and brightened in pulses, like a storm trying to break through but held back by a thin barrier. The human reached. Her at last, standing only feet away. The heat was unbearable. His arms trembling from the burn, he lifted his hand slowly, not touching, just holding it out between them. "Listen to me," he said softly now. "You are not alone." Her glowing eyes locked on him, filled with fire and fear. For a long moment, time seemed frozen. Then slowly, her claws lowered to the ground. Her breathing softened, though each breath still shook the room. The glow faded from blinding white to deep gold. The patterns across her skin slowed, no longer racing like fire rivers. She collapsed forward, her body hitting the cracked floor. Her claws retracted slightly, her glow dimming until it was only faint light under her skin. Her voice came weak, trembling. "You stayed." The human fell to his knees beside her, exhausted. His hands were red from the heat, his throat dry, but his heart steady. He nodded, whispering, "I stayed." The room finally stilled. The humming faded into silence. The storm had not ended, but for this moment, she had won. Not because of her strength, but because of his choice. The choice to stand when running would have been easier. The choice to believe in her humanity, even when she lost it herself. The sun of Epsilon 9 rose slowly, casting pale light through the broken window. Shadows stretched across the ruined apartment, showing every scar of the night. The couch was torn apart, the walls clawed and bent, the floor cracked and glowing, faintly where her heat had burned through. The human sat slumped against the wall, too tired to move, his body aching, his skin red from the burns of her fire. Across from him, she lay still, her glow faint now, only small golden lines pulsing. Under her skin, her claws had shrunk back, her breathing heavy but steady. For the first time since the cycle began, she looked almost human again, almost calm. But the memory of her screams still echoed inside his chest. The apartment was silent except for the faint hum of the city outside. Alien traffic moved, voices carried from the street below. To them, the night had passed like any other. No one knew what had happened in this small room above them. No one knew how close the storm had come to breaking free. The human forced himself. To stand, his legs weak, he walked slowly toward her, kneeling beside her motionless body. For a moment, fear returned. What if this was a trick? What if she woke wild again? But then her eyes opened, soft and dim. The glow faded to a faint gold. She looked at him, not as a predator, but as someone broken. "You stayed," she whispered, her voice rough, cracked. The words were fragile, almost disbelief. The human nodded, his throat dry. I told you I would. She closed her eyes, a weak smile on her lips. You saved me. When I could not save myself. Her hand twitched, claws barely showing before retracting again. He hesitated, then carefully placed his hand near hers. The heat was still there, faint but tolerable. It no longer burned. Instead, it felt alive. Pulsing like a quiet heartbeat, but the silence did not last. Her body trembled slightly, as if the cycle was not gone, only resting. Her voice returned, softer now. This was only the beginning. Her eyes opened again, dim but steady. The first cycle, there will be more. The human's stomach tightened. The thought of surviving another night like this felt impossible. And yet, she looked at him with something he had not seen before. Not hunger, not rage, but fear. She feared herself, and for the first time, he understood how heavy her battle truly was. He sat back, staring at the ruined apartment, the scars on the floor, the shattered lights, the broken furniture. It was proof of her power, proof that she could destroy him with ease, and yet she hadn't. Not because of luck, but because she fought to hold on, and his words had been her anchor. The silence stretched. She whispered again, her voice almost pleading. When the next cycle comes, you must not be here. I will not hold it back again. Her glowing eyes shimmered with sorrow, but the human shook his head. I will not leave you. Her breath caught, as if she had expected that answer, but still feared it. You do not understand, she said. The heat grows stronger each time. If I fail, nothing will survive near me. The human looked at her, his face pale but steady. I saw you fight, I saw you win, and if it comes again, I'll be here. I'll remind you who you are. For a long moment, she stared at him in silence. Then she turned away, closing her eyes. A faint glow traced her skin, pulsing slowly, like an ember waiting for fire. The human leaned back against the wall, exhaustion pulling at his body. He knew the truth now. This was not the end. Only a pause. The cycle would return, stronger, fiercer, and each time the risk would grow. But so would his resolve. The sun rose higher, flooding the room with pale gold light. It felt calm, but calm was a lie. This was the eye of the storm. And as the human closed his tired eyes, he whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning."